with Greg Rakestraw on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Welcome to the latest installment of On the Horizon on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Last Wednesday, I got to be in the presence of Greg Kampe and his Oakland Golden Grizzlies. There we go. 15-point winners against IU Indianapolis. Then since that time on Sunday, a victory in overtime against Detroit Mercy. And Greg has now tied Perry Watson for the most Horizon League victories as a coach with 131. He'll try to break that record coming up on Friday. He joins us now. Good evening, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It was good to see you as always. And again, I thought your team played exceedingly well last Wednesday. How do you feel about your team's form heading the last couple of weeks of the season?
Well, I think we're starting to figure it out a little bit. We've had a lot of issues this year with when you have 11 new guys, you're going to do that. But I do think we're starting to figure it out. We shot the ball, as you saw the other night, pretty well. And then we found a way to win a game we should have lost yesterday. And, that's the first time all year we've done that. And championship-level teams find ways to do that. So, I'm feeling fairly good about us. A couple weeks ago, we had it really rolling and had won 4 in a row. Robert Morris had won 4 in a row. And the game, we played a great game. The two teams played a great game. And they won it on a foul at the buzzer. And we went downward and they went forward. Those types of things will do that, right? So, we're trying to figure it out now and get it in. And you've seen what Robert Morris has done since that game. And now maybe we're back on that track, too.
You kind of knew what you were going into this season. You kind of saw at the end of last year with the success that you had that there was going to be significant change. It wasn't just seniors of kids getting an opportunity like Trey, to go play at a place like the University of Arizona. I guess knowing what was coming, what was your mindset going into this season?
Well, I got 3 guys playing elsewhere, making $1.6 million combined.
Right.
So it's not like I can be upset about that. I mean, it's the new wave. It's what it is, and we all have to just figure out at our level how to compete with it. And I've got guys this year that could come back next year that are going to, maybe not as much as those guys got, but are going to have checks thrown in front of them, and we've got to figure out how to compete with that. And hopefully, I can keep some of the guys that are on my roster for next year because we don't want to have 11 new guys every year.
So many guys that have done this for the length of tenure that you have simply said, you know what? I don't need this. I'm going to ride off into the sunset and go do something else. What keeps you going at Oakland University, Greg?
Well, and Izzo and I talk a lot about this because what you're saying is true. A lot of our colleagues, from Jay Wright to Larinaga this year to Tony Bennett just right in the middle of the season. I mean, it's different, it's hard, and it's not what many of us signed up for or, that our careers have been. But for me, I got nothing else in life, man. This is what I do. This is Chuck Daly said many, many years ago, I'm a basketball lifer, and that's pretty much how I feel. And so, I want to be one of the guys that helps figure it out. I don't want to be one of the old guys yelling at the clouds saying I left because of this, I just want to keep going at it. I love it. I enjoy it. It's my life, and so I'm not going anywhere. I'm just trying to figure it out.
And the Horizon League and Oakland University are better for it. Greg Kampe, our guest, and On the Horizon on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. I understand your focus is on this season, and my goodness, you're only 30 games into it. We're 2 weeks away from the start of the conference tournament as you have this conversation. But just how did a win in Indianapolis, or 2 of them to be more precise, which led to a win over Kentucky, how did that change your life? How did that change your program?
Well, I think that, we're still finding out the change of the program. If we had kept those guys, we'd probably been a preseason top 30, 40 team in the country.
Sure.
And so it changed us a lot because we lost those guys, and that's not for the good. But I think it gave great exposure to our league. It gave great exposure. I mean, Jack Oakey's life was changed forever. And, he's playing in the G League now, and that would have never happened if it weren't for those couple of days in Indianapolis and then the Kentucky game. And I told them before we played Kentucky that this is a life-changing experience. We find a way to win this game. Every one of you's lives will be changed, and they are. And, Jack Oakey will will forever go down in the lores of college basketball. I mean, people still, they know his name and talk to me about him no matter where I am in the country. I could be in Arizona, California. It doesn't matter. And a guy like DQ Cole,
Right.
I mean, that shot he made is 20 years from now, he'll be brought back to Oakland, and they will play that on the big screen and celebrate him. So, yeah, it was really life-changing. But for me personally, it's more of that's something I'll think more about when it is time to hang it up. Right now I'm just trying to find a way to beat Fort Wayne on Friday night.
Understood. All right, let's talk about a couple of the guys that came back for you. You mentioned DQ Cole. Let's talk about Burrow as well, because he has taken on such a much bigger role than he had for you a season ago. What is it that kept those guys in your program this year?
Well, I think that, they wanted bigger roles, and they saw one Trey left, and that they might be the guys that get that role. And so I'm thankful they did, and I think, DQ hit a huge shot yesterday to put the game into overtime with 5 seconds to go, and, there's still more in his book to write, I think, and so I'm excited for him on that. And then for Baru, he's going through that progression that Townsend went. He played a bunch last year. Now he's kind of an all-league, maybe level guy, maybe second team like Trey was that. And then next year, if I can keep him, would be, player of the year type, statistics and player of the year type season. I really believe he could do that. And so, I'm just hoping that he realizes that he could play that Trey Townsend role and he stay. And I mean, that's what it'll take through life with him. A few $100,000 isn't something that's going to be life-changing, and it's a good start in life, but it's not something that's going to change your life. And being player of the year in the Horizon League and helping a team win a championship, that is life-changing. So I'm just hoping that he's, got that in mind, and that I can keep him and we can move forward with his progression.
Going back to Jack Golke, but more so the role that type of player has played in your program. And you and I have known each other, well, since the last millennium, so I can cite a guy like Kevin Kovac. I think about guys like Travis Bader or Eric Kangas. You have always had at least one three-point shooter that just scares the bejesus out of whomever you are playing. What is it that has kind of allowed you to always kind of recruit that player or have that guy as part of your most successful teams?
Well, it's a point of emphasis. I learned a long time ago that, every time you put another guy on the court, it becomes a more defensive game. And so if I can get a team to guard a guy without helping off him and having a focus of we're not going to let him catch, I'm not going to help off him, I'm not going to double off him, then we're playing offense 4-on-4. And so that's a better chance of being successful. So we've always tried to recruit that guy, and our shooters take bad shots, but we want them taking bad shots. We want the other team knowing that this guy's going to shoot the ball, and we have got to guard him and not help off him. And that's really been our philosophy, as you said, for 20, 30 years, we've known each other, that we've always had that guy. And it's out there in the recruiting world that the high school coaches, AU coaches, junior college coaches, they all know. I get letters and texts all the time from people. This is your guy. This is your next Kangas. This is your next Bader. And so it makes it a little easier for us because we're known for that.
And the best nickname of the bunch, Darth Vader, by the way, of that group. Before I let you go, again, you mentioned you got Fort Wayne coming up on Friday. You got them by 4 at your place earlier this year. What do you take away from that matchup and try to do again coming up on campus in Fort Wayne on Friday night?
Well, Fort Wayne's a team that is going to shoot, a ton of threes, and if they're making them, they're going to be hard to beat. I mean, I think Jalen Jackson's probably the best player in the league. He's so good, and he can get to the rim and score at the rim, and then they've put all these other guys around him that can shoot. Now, when we played him at our place, we did an unbelievable job of taking the three away. They only got 15 threes up, and our zone can do that. The problem is they made 10 out of the 15, which, and they're more than capable of doing that. They're a really, really good basketball team. I think they're a team that could represent the Horizon League in March in the NCAA tournament. I think they're that good. So it's going to be a hell of a game.
I think so, too, my friend. And, again, his next win makes him the winningest coach in Horizon League history in terms of conference games. His first win this season made him a member of the 700 Club. It is Greg Campier that joins us now. Thanks for the time, buddy. Hope to see you in Indianapolis here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I hope I see you, too, because I've got a team that I think is good enough that if we can get there, we can win it. I think the biggest problem is going to be getting there. So I look forward to it.
Thank you, Coach Campy, for the time. And this reminder to you, tickets are available now for the 2025 Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. After you get all the insights from the program tonight, be sure to visit horizonleague.com for championships information, merchandise, life in the league stories, golden hour content, and much more. Remember, March starts here in Indianapolis at the Corteva Coliseum on the campus on the Indiana State Fairgrounds, March 10th and the 11th. So, where do the Oakland Golden Grizzlies stand? We just had Coach Campy on the show. Well, right now they are solidly in 6th position. So 6 would be they get a home game in 13 days, Tuesday, March 4th, in the opening round of the conference tournament. Again, top 5 teams get buys to the quarterfinals. Top 4 teams host quarterfinals. The 4-5 matchup is set. The 5 seed goes on the road. Teams 6, 7, and 8 get a home game. Teams 9, 10, and 11 go on the road. Teams 9, 10, and 11 seem pretty well set. There could be some fluctuation between Detroit Mercy and IU Indy. They're both 4 and 12. In fact, that is the only Horizon League men's matchup of the evening. That is at 7 o'clock, Callahan Hall, ESPN+. It's been a long season for Green Bay, but they finally got off the conference schneid. They break a lengthy losing streak. They beat Wright State this weekend, but not officially, but likely they will be the number 11 seed. Oakland is 6, Northern Kentucky 7, Wright State is 8. That is, frankly, unfamiliar territory for both the Norse as well as the Raiders being that low in terms of the standings. Cleveland State was far and away number 1. They have come back to the pack. Entering tonight, they are one of 3 teams with 12 wins. They do not have another bye remaining, so they control their own fate. They are 12 and 4. Robert Morris is 12 and 5. Youngstown State is 12 and 5. Milwaukee is 11 and 5. Purdue Fort Wayne is 11 and 6. Our league champ likely to come from one of those 5 teams. Everybody either has 3 or 4 league games remaining. By the way, all those teams have at least 18 wins overall, and Robert Morris, again, far and away their best season since they made the move to the Horizon League. They are sitting at 20 and 8. One game tonight, a very full conference slate on Friday night. 5 league games. Only team that has the Friday night window off is IU Indy because they play again on Sunday at Northern Kentucky. The Friday night slate is as follows. Cleveland State at Detroit Mercy, 7 o'clock. Green Bay at Robert Morris, 7 o'clock. Northern Kentucky at Wright State, huge rivalry game, seeding implications on the line, 7 o'clock. Oakland, Purdue, Fort Wayne, again, that is the 5-6 game right now, seeding implications there, 7 o'clock tip-off. And our featured game on Friday night, Milwaukee and Youngstown State. Why is that one our featured game? Well, it's going to be on ESPNU, so national television for this one. Again, that will be Youngstown State and Milwaukee in northeastern Ohio. And again, 2 of those teams that are still playing for a conference championship. Penguins a half game back of Cleveland State. Panthers 1 game back of Cleveland State. Check it out Friday night. Jordan Burnfield, Dave Padgett. You can catch that one on ESPNU. We'll flip our attention to the women's side of the ledger. Northern Kentucky head coach Jeff Hands will join us in the next segment of the program. Before we go any further, I want to thank another new sponsor on the show. That's the good folks at Back 9 Golf Entertainment in the heart of downtown Indianapolis by Lucas Oil Stadium. Whether you take golf seriously to improve your game, enjoy a tiered driving range with simulated courses using in-range radar technology, or if you simply want to gather with friends and enjoy a variety of games for all ages and playing levels, you can compete and play. Come out to Back 9 where reality meets fun. Everyone is a winner at Back 9. Again, women's hoops next with a comprehensive look around the league standings heading into the penultimate weekend of league regular season competition. Jeff Hands of NKU in a moment here on the Horizon on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Our chance to talk women's basketball on the Horizon here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. There clearly has been a big three this year in the Horizon League. Frankly, last year it was a big two. The third team in Purdue-Fort Wayne was really good. This year it has been Purdue-Fort Wayne. It has been Green Bay. It has been Cleveland State. Wins from the other 8 league members against those three have been few and far between. But one of the clubs that has one of those victories as of late would be Northern Kentucky, as they were able to get a win against Cleveland State last Wednesday by a score of 72-69. Jeff Hans's club is 7-9 in league play in his first year on the job, and he joins us now. Jeff, thanks for the time. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And obviously, I know you wish the overall record was better at 10-17, but again, the conference record, solid for year number one. Just overall, your thoughts on your first year in Highland Heights.
Yeah, the record's not what we want by any means, but I think we've been improving every game. The overall record 10-17, you look at it and you look at who we played in the non-conference, and a lot of local people know Ball State. They'll know Toledo, they'll know Southern Indiana, and then we got our guarantee game with UK, and the non-conference schedule was really tough to prepare us for this league schedule, and I think it's showing through right now that we're almost at 500 and right there on the verge of trying to get in that top 4, if not 5-6 game where we're hosting.
For those that don't know your background, you were able to get a Division I job and probably didn't have to even move because you were literally down the street at Thomas More at a variety of different levels, including, winning a Division III national championship there. What was it about the timing / opportunity that this was the right time to make that jump for you to the Division I level?
I just felt like anytime you can move up, and we've been moving up over Thomas More, and I didn't have to move there because we go from Division III to NAI to Division II, and now when the NKU job opened up, and being an assistant there for years, knowing how the university is and the passion for women's basketball that they've had, just felt like it was the right opportunity to take this chance and come back to Highland Heights. And you're correct, I did not have to move. My wife was able to keep her job, so it's been a blessing.
Well, again, you were a grad assistant, you were a full-time assistant, and you got to work for one of the legends of women's basketball and small college basketball in Nancy Winstel. How much of what you do is influenced by her?
When you work with somebody like Coach Winstel, and we still call her Coach, and she comes around quite a bit as well, you have to take a lot of things from her and what she does, but you have to make it your own. And I think that's one thing that we've always done. I've always been able to do while I was at Thomas More. I worked for her. I worked for Jerry Sheevy, who won a Division III national championship at Wilmington College as well. And you take those pieces and you make it what you want, how you want to run the program. But there's a lot of those foundations, a lot of those values that we go by now, and I hope we can get those values here at NKU and going in the right direction.
Again, you know the program, you know the area. But let's talk about the roster. Just how much, turnover did you have from a year ago? How much does this year's edition of the Norse look like the one from a season ago?
It's a lot different. It's different and same because we have a lot of returners, but it's different because we lost Carter McCray, freshman of the year last year in the league. She's playing up at Wisconsin now. And then Kamari Mitchell-Stein is down at the Florida Gulf Coast. So those were 2 of our leading scorers. But we have 5 seniors that all wanted to stay for the last year at NKU, and 3 of them transferred in last year, and Macy Blevins, Maya Meredith, and Calissa Lacey. And those 3 have been big factors in what we're doing this year. And then we brought in 2 grad transfers to help us with some experience as well. So, we're going to lose 7 at the end of the day. But these young ladies are doing a great job, and they've really bought into what we want to do and how we want this program to go.
I was going to say, you said bought in, and I was going to lead with buy-in. And so you are new to them. How long of a process was that for them to figure out, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. We can win here together. What was that process like for you and the team in the early days?
A little bit of a struggle in the summer with the summer workouts, to be honest with you. But you get in the games, you get in the scrimmages, the exhibition games early on, and you see everything that you work on, and you see some success, and they've always worked hard. They've never done anything less than that, and then you start playing games, you see where the X's and O's come into it, and they bought into it. We played a lot of close games early on, one possession games that could have went either way, and when you have a new staff, 6 new players really, because we brought in 4 after we got the job, and then there's 2 freshmen already coming to NKU. So you have 6 new players with the 9 returners. You know, there's a lot of mix that has to go on there and figuring each other out. And I thought they stuck with it. And again, like I said before, now you're seeing rewards of it as we get into league play here and with a couple weeks left.
Let's go back to last week again. That Cleveland State win is a heck of a win for you. What did your team do so well to get that W against the Vikings?
They made me look good by making a bunch of shots. When you make 16 threes, you know, and that's one thing we want to make. We want to make 10 or try to get to close to 10 every game, but they just stuck with it. You know, we didn't make some early on, and we stayed with the plan. We stayed with the defensive game plan, and Cleveland State built a double-digit lead there at halftime, and we stayed true to what we were doing, and we started trading those threes for twos, and it got us back into it. And then we got some timely turnovers that we forced on Cleveland State, and we're able to put those into some points off turnovers for us, which usually doesn't happen very well, but we were able to do those things and, you know, really got the excitement going and put Cleveland State on their heels.
Next up for you would be the team that had been in the top spot and right now is a half game back of Green Bay. Purdue-Fort Wayne is coming off their first league loss, their first loss in some time. What has made Maria Marquesano's group so difficult to play this year?
They can score in so many different ways. They shoot the three very well, but they can also go inside to the post players. They can drive it. And I don't think they get enough credit because everybody talks about their offense and the things that they do there, but their defense is so good. They limit you to what you can do because they pressure the basketball. They're very active, and then they throw a couple different defenses at you to really make it hard for you to know what to run and when to run it. So, you know, we got to prepare the next couple of days to get ready for that and try to put on a better showing than what we did up in Fort Wayne a month ago. Right
now, you're kind of tied for that 5th seed with Detroit Mercy with 4 league games left to go. You kind of know you're going to avoid those big 3 teams, you know, you would hope, likely, until you get to the semifinals in Indianapolis. Just how much scoreboard / league standings watching are you doing right now?
Try not to do too much of it because we got a lot to worry about. We got to, so we try to talk to our team about taking it one game at a time. You know, Greg, I was kind of a bit of a hypocrite a couple weeks ago because we won some games and everybody's talking about us being in that 4 spot. And, you know, I told them take it one game at a time. And then I come in a couple of days later and say, hey, it's a sprint to 4. We're in the last 6 or 7 games of the season. We got a sprint here. You know, what are we going to do and how are we going to handle it? So I was a little bit of a hypocrite. So, I mean, we're watching. Everybody always is, but you got to control what you can control, and that's the NKU North, and that's all we can worry about and trying to make ourselves better and keep improving.
Final thing before we let you go, I'm going to let you brag on the place you get to call home. I was around when that building was first built, between 10 and 15 years ago. It is a phenomenal facility you have in Truist Arena. What is it like to recruit kids to that building and knowing that you can almost see the skyline of Cincinnati from your campus? What sort of gem do you have to recruit to there in your backyard?
I just think it's untapped. I think we can do great things here at NKU with the facilities, the university, the location. I mean, it's all right here for us. We just got to go take advantage of it. It's great to bring recruits in and see their faces when they see the arena. You know, we talk about some of the banners that are up there because of the past and what our men's program has done here in the Horizon League and how we want to get there and what we want to do to sell that vision. And then having downtown Cincinnati right there, less than 10 minutes away, is a great a great thing for us.
No doubt about that. Jeff, congrats on a very solid start to year number 1 at Northern Kentucky. Appreciate your time. Hope we see you in Indianapolis here in a couple of weeks.
Sounds great. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Before we give you the complete rundown of the women's standings and schedule, this reminder, if you haven't geared up for the next Horizon League Championship, then be sure to visit HorizonLeague.com. Click on the Merchandise tab for your officially licensed Horizon League Championship apparel or trendy league merch, including shirts, hooded sweatshirts, glassware, and more. That's HorizonLeague.com, where you can make a major impact. Now, a quick check of the standings in Horizon League women's play. For the first time since December, Purdue-Fort Wayne lost. They were beaten by Cleveland State. So Cleveland State bounced back from their loss against Northern Kentucky to beat Purdue-Fort Wayne last weekend. So right now the Phoenix are a half game up on Purdue-Fort Wayne. Phoenix are 16-1. Purdue-Fort Wayne 15-1. Cleveland State now 12-4. All of those teams have won 20 or more games on the season. So there is going to be postseason basketball for all three of them, but likely only an NCAA berth for one of the three. There is then a significant gulf between 3 and kind of everybody else in the league. Robert Morris is currently 4th. They're 8-9. Detroit Mercy and Northern Kentucky are tied for 5th, 7-9. Oakland, the 7 seed. IU Indy, the 8 seed. They're in line to get a home game in the opening round. Then it comes to Wright State at 5-11. Youngstown at 4-12. Milwaukee checks in at 4-13. It is a more full slate of women's hoops tonight. 3 games this evening, 2 of those tomorrow. Again, massive game at Cleveland State. Number 1 Green Bay, number 3 Cleveland State, who duked it out for the league championship last year. Again, a big test for the Phoenix on the road at Cleveland. That is at 7 o'clock tonight. Elsewhere, IU Indianapolis is at Milwaukee, and Oakland is at Wright State. Tomorrow night, Purdue-Fort Wayne at Northern Kentucky, and Youngstown State is at Detroit Mercy. All of this on the women's side is likely pointing to the last game of the regular season. Purdue-Fort Wayne is at Green Bay for a 2 o'clock Eastern time tip-off next Saturday, March 1st. That is likely the way this is heading, that the winner of that game will claim the Horizon League Championship. Cleveland State kind of reduced to spoiler at this point. Still, though, the Vikings have had a very good season. With that, we're about to again exit stage right. But first, this for our friends at Cluster Truck. Are you hungry? Cluster Truck is Indy's go-to delivery and pickup kitchen. With always free delivery and over 100 menu items, there is something to satisfy everyone's craving. Hand-stretched pizzas, pad thai taco salad, wraps, burritos, and more. I mean, that's like literally everything. And it's directly delivered to your curb. Delivered to Fountain Square, downtown Indy, Carmel, Castleton, Broderville, Fishers, more. Here's the important part. Use the code HLRadio at checkout to receive $5 off your next order of $20 or more. Order now at clustertruck.com, or you can be like me and have the app on your phone. We'll come back and wrap it up next. Kelly Ford from the league office is set to join. You're listening to On the Horizon on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. for a final time for this installment of On the Horizon on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. We have two more of these to go. We will do one next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Then we will do our show from the Vallejo Fan Zone at 6 o'clock on Monday night between sessions of the Barbasol Horizon League Men's and Women's Championships. Again, we'll be on the air at 6 o'clock. Our buddies Query and Schultz live from there from 4 until 6. And then men's semifinal action tips off the Cortevas Coliseum across the street at 7 o'clock. We have missed this man's presence, his energy, and his knowledge on the show this season. I'm glad we have him back now. It is Kelly Ford. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Hey, Greg, I'm doing really well. Getting over a little bit of an illness, but we're going to fight through it here like our teams do this time of year. Everyone's a little banged up, but we need to work hard to get to the finish line. I'm really happy to join you today.
I'll make an old man reference that you won't get. That means your RPMs like a record player are down to 45 from 78. Still faster than most at 33 is the heartbeat of Kelly Ford joining us here on the program. All right. Cleveland State was clearly in front of everybody. I wade into dangerous territory when I use terms like regression to the mean around you because you're smarter than me. But Cleveland State has come back to the pack. There are now 5 teams within a game and a half of the top spot in the league. Make some sense of the Horizon League men's standings for me if you can.
Yeah, Greg, Cleveland State got off to that really hot start in league play. They dropped their opening league game and then rattled off, more than a dozen wins in a row. We're up there in the top 5 nationally in terms of longest active win streaks. But you're right. They have come back to the pack a little bit, or I'll say the pack's kind of caught up to them, if you will, because I think all 5 of these teams in our men's standings right now, I'm talking Cleveland State, Youngstown State, Robert Morris, Purdue Fort Wayne, Milwaukee, all of these teams still have a path to that number 1 seed in our Barbasol Horizon League Men's Basketball Championship, and they're all really good teams. We're really competitive. It's really equitable, and that makes winning in our league, especially on the road, really, really hard. But I think all 5 of these teams have a chance to be that number 1 seed. It's going to be really interesting to see in these last 3 or 4 league games, depending on how many each team has left, who is going to be able to rise to the top. And ultimately, everyone wants to be the number 1 seed, but ultimately you really want to be in that top 4 because that means you get to host a quarterfinal game on your campus. So all of these teams will be gunning for that. And, Greg, I believe the parity in our league, yes, these are the 5 that have a chance to be the number 1 seed. I think you could probably say there's even more than just these 5, though, that realistically could get hot in March and end up being the AQ for the Horizon League in the NCAA tournament. That's what makes this league so much fun, and that's why we tune in and watch every single night.
Oakland, I just saw them. I would agree with you on that front. I would put them into that mix as well. In terms of the top 5, the 2 teams may have the advantage just because of luck of the schedule. Cleveland State and Milwaukee have already had their second bye. In other words, they have 4 games left to play. RMU, Youngstown, Purdue, Fort Wayne have just 3 left to go over the last 10 days or so. And frankly, this is the way you draw it up. You've got 3 remaining linear broadcasts starting with Friday night Milwaukee and Youngstown, and those will be 3 games that will be key to determining just who the number 1 seed is going to be. What are those 3 TV games you got coming up?
Yeah, the fact that we have 3 linear games on ESPN's family of networks, 1 on ESPNU and 2 on ESPN2 in the final 4 play dates of our season is really remarkable, and it's highlighting kind of the drama of this race down the stretch. So you mentioned the first one coming up here that's obviously going to be really, really big, Milwaukee at Youngstown State. That is this Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPNU. And then the 2 in the final play week are both the fact that we've got 3 linear games remaining to highlight this race. It's all good things for the Horizon League, and it's really, really exciting, for the league office or for the neutral fan. All these fan bases, everyone's getting nervous, but it's really, really exciting because the opportunity is there for these teams to go out and accomplish what they set out to do, and that is earn that quarterfinal game at home, earn that number one seed if you can, position yourself as best as possible to make a run through the Barbasol Horizon League Men's Basketball Championship and punch your ticket as the AQ into that NCAA tournament. And we saw just last year what a Horizon League champion can do in the NCAA tournament when Oakland took down Kentucky and then took NC State, a team that went to the Final Four, Greg, as you know, took them to overtime. So once we get in the dance, we are positive that our representative is going to show well and can give those bigger boys a run for their money and maybe even get an upset or two.
Last year, obviously, Oakland had the metrics that separated them in large part because of an early season win against Xavier. As you look at the overall record, you know, Robert Morris is at 20. Literally, the other teams are all at 18 overall wins. There's not much that separates those five teams in terms of league play. Is there anything from a resume standpoint that separates those five teams in terms of what a seed might look like come Selection Sunday?
Yeah, Greg, and I know we talked about this last year quite a bit, but I'll just remind the listeners, there's really a couple things that the Men's Basketball Selection Committee is looking for as they evaluate resumes, especially among, you know, the one-bid conferences, which right now that's what the Horizon League projects to be. You know, you're looking at that seed line of 12 through 16, and that is the committee really values quad 1 and quad 2 wins. And right now we have 3 quad 2 wins. Milwaukee, Purdue, Fort Wayne, and Robert Morris all have one apiece. But the other thing that the committee really values is staying, quote, clean in quad 4, meaning having 0 or very few quad 4 losses. Those are what the committee term as bad losses in their eyes. And right now, to me, as I look at it through the eyes that they're through the same kind of scope the committee would, Milwaukee's the one that stands out to me because they have that quad 2 win. They've still got 2 more quad 3 opportunities on their schedule upcoming, and they only have 1 quad 4 loss right now. So in the eyes of the committee, there's only 1 bad loss on their resume. So right now, I would say Milwaukee, in the eyes of the committee, is probably the most advantageously positioned. However, in these last 2 weeks, a lot of things can change. So all 5 of these teams are still in really good shape. But right now, the committee would probably view Milwaukee slightly better than the rest, and that shows in their net. Milwaukee is our top-rated net team at number 128 nationally.
All right, on the flip side, on the women's side last year, it was a 2-team race, and we said, hey, Purdue-Fort Wayne's pretty good. They're third. Obviously now PFW is in that mix. Cleveland State is north of 20 wins again, but there's some separation between Green Bay, Purdue-Fort Wayne, and then we get to Cleveland State. And, Kelly, I will give you full credit for being Nostradamus on this. You knew that going in, so you scheduled Purdue-Fort Wayne at Green Bay on the last day of the season in women's basketball. You deserve a raise for doing that. What does the women's kind of outlook look like knowing it's really a 3-team race to the finish line?
Well, Greg, you're way too kind. You know what they say, blind squirrels find nuts as well. So it did work out very nicely this year with regard to these teams playing down the stretch. And just like on the men's side, it makes for a really compelling race and interesting for our fans to keep up with all the way to the very end. There's 2 games in particular remaining, and you touched on it, among these 3 teams that really have separated themselves in the standings on the women's side. The 2 games remaining that really could move the needle with regard to the final standings, 1, 2, 3. Actually, one of them's tonight in less than an hour, 7 p.m. on ESPN+. Green Bay is on the road at Cleveland State. And then you noted it, you know, the one that ultimately could decide the number 1 seed in our Barbasol Horizon League Women's Basketball Championship, the final day of the regular season, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. local, Purdue-Fort Wayne on the road up in Wisconsin at Green Bay, that game on ESPN+. It's been really fun, Greg, to see these 3 teams compete this year and really go at it. They've been at the top from the very beginning, and we've had a change. We've had a shift in how the committee evaluates teams this year on the women's side, and these 3 teams have separated themselves in that regard as well.
All right, so last year where the conversation was, hey, there might be a path for 2 teams to make the NCAA field. Green Bay got the AQ. They kind of had had the stronger non-conference metric, it was a one-bid league. Again, Cleveland State and Purdue-Fort Wayne last year both really good. I think all three teams we know will play some level of postseason basketball. Is there a path to two in the NCAA tournament, or is this, again, a race for one spot amongst these three teams?
Yeah, Greg, I mentioned there in my last answer that the women's basketball selection committee has kind of changed their approach to evaluating resumes from last year. They've now adopted the approach that the men's committee has taken for a handful of years, and that is adopting the quadrant system. So quad 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the cutoffs for these quadrants are different for women's basketball compared to men's because it's based on women's basketball specific data that the NCAA and their consultants and partners have evaluated and back tested going back up to 10 years. So as we evaluate it through this new lens, this new scope, I do think this is a positive change for women's basketball as a whole. I think it's a positive change for the Horizon League in the national positioning and kind of ecosystem of women's basketball as it relates to NCAA selection. However, for looking at the data this year, I do think we're probably realistically a one-bid league again this year. I think we're very, very close in women's basketball to having multiple bids. But as things have shaken out this year, I think we are a one-bid league. And as you look at kind of what the committee's looking at here, all three of these teams have 2 wins in quad 3. And because the quadrant sizes are different in women's basketball, the quad 3 wins are really important. On the men's side, it's quad 1 and quad 2. Those are really quality wins. On the women's side, it's actually quad 1, 2, and 3. So all three of these teams have 2 wins in quadrant 3. But the differentiator right now, just like it was on the men's side, I talked about with Milwaukee, Green Bay is clean in quad 4. They are 19-0 in quad 4 games. In the eyes of the committee, that means Green Bay has 0 bad losses this year. So as things stand right now, Green Bay would have, I believe, in the eyes of the committee, the most attractive resume among these three teams, and the net rankings support that as well. Green Bay currently number 77, Purdue-Fort Wayne number 97, and Cleveland State not too far behind at number 112 as things stand as of today.
Kelly, as always, thanks for the time and the insights, my friend. I appreciate it. If I don't see you before, I will see you at the Corteva Coliseum on March 10th.
Cannot wait, Greg. You're the best. We look forward to it.
We are just about out of time here on the Horizon on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Before we go, the Rise League wants to thank its corporate partners for their support of the 2025 Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. Barbasol, Key Bank, Vallejo, Anthem, IU Indianapolis, Capital Group, Gatorade, Indiana Sports Corporation, CBiz Somerset, Cluster Truck, Cripe, Indianapolis Indians, as well as Intella Building. Thanks, everybody involved in today's show. First of all, our producer, Nathaniel Finch. You just heard Kelly Ford. Before that, Greg Campy, men's head basketball coach, Oakland University, in his 41st season. Jeff Hands, 40 less years at Northern Kentucky, but a previous championship-winning coach at his days next door to NKU in terms of at Thomas Morris. Again, we have 2 more of these left to go. We are back next Tuesday for a 6 o'clock edition of the show. Next week is the final week of Horizon League regular season play. I doubt that anything on the men's or women's side will be settled in terms of a league champ, but we'll preview key matchups on both men's and women's side, both of which could include Purdue-Fort Wayne. Then we will do a live show from the Vallejo Fan Zone, again, Monday, March 10th. And if you can avoid working on that day, do so. Come out and hang out with us. Watch the women's semifinals at noon, men's semifinals at 7. The following day, Championship Tuesday. We certainly hope to see you for both days out at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. Thanks for joining us on the Horizon, heard on a regular basis on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.